Welcome back. You're listening to Federal Insights, the Future of Work, sponsored by Box on Federal News Network. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guest today is Sunny Hashmi, the Managing Director of Global Government at Box. Now, Sunny, before break, we were talking about the surge of remote workers, the changes agencies have had to make, the relooking maybe at some business processes. Really, in the end here, it's all about meeting citizen expectations. And just because federal employees are working from home doesn't mean citizens don't expect services to happen and happen quickly and efficiently. So let's talk a little bit about that idea of how agencies can do more, can continue to meet those expectations set by citizens.
Absolutely, Jason. And I think one of the things that we should recognize is that we take a lot of human, things for granted when everybody's working into the same office. When people show up at the same office every day, teamwork is natural. People sit next to each other. They see each other in the eye. Meetings lead to decisions. We take all those things for granted. And I think when people work remotely, one of the challenges that we're seeing in not just government agencies, but across the board, is how to replicate the same level of trust and teamwork, collaboration between people in a virtual world. So one of the things that I recommend agencies do is to really think about things like performance management, things like making sure people have the information that they need when they need it to be effective. Things like even creating environments virtually where people can come together, employees can come together, trust each other to continue that innovation, solution creation, decision making in a collaborative, democratic way. All of that requires active involvement by leadership to create those environments. So that's number one. Really investing in people right now means going out of your way to make sure that people are connected, collaborative, they have the information they need, they're feeling their voice is being heard. So that's critical anytime, but I think historically we've been able to take that for granted. Now we don't have that opportunity and we need to actively prioritize that. Secondly, I think put yourself in the shoes of the citizen, the stakeholder that is expecting service from you. They are not, while you are challenged as an agency to work remotely, those citizens are also probably facing similar challenges. They are at home, they need that service, they need the information, they need to connect with somebody. Make sure that they set right expectations with those citizens, but also provide them with analogs to the traditional way of working. I'm still seeing some agencies, especially in the state and local level, they're expecting people to mail things in, fill out the form, mail it in. That is just no longer acceptable for many of us who are dealing with our personal lives, helping our children learn and grow, doing our jobs remotely. We just don't have the luxury of waiting on government employees to take their time, government agencies to take their time in that process. So think about digital analogs for all of those options. It's necessary to kind of think about, your business process with digital first mentality moving forward. As I mentioned before, now is the time to learn the lessons, understand what's not working, have a very frank introspective on things that are not quite working well, and actually prioritizing those as you think about your next year's strategy for IT investments.
So, Sunny, I'm going to put on my program manager hat, the person that sits and has a mission to do. You want me to do what? You want me to think about my digital? I'm just barely above water. I don't have enough staff. My staff is scared to come in.
Sure.
You want me to think differently. How do you kind of push people in that direction gently to kind of think about that? Because I think, as you well know from your time in government, a lot of federal employees feel overwhelmed. They feel like I really don't have the ability to make big changes. I can only make incremental changes. And even that's difficult sometimes.
Absolutely, and you bring up a really good point. The practical way to do this is to reach out across your organization and partner with people across your IT organization, your program offices, to come up with solutions together. Nobody's expecting you as an employee, as a program manager, to move boulders on your own. There is, in my experience, I used to joke about this when I was in the federal government, that in order to do anything in the government, you have to go through a land of 1,000 no's before you get to the yes. There's many, many, many reasons to say no to new programs or new approaches. Right now, unfortunately, organizations don't have that luxury. You have to kind of figure out ways to get the yes. And that may require rethinking policy, that may require revisiting some decisions that were reached many years ago, and trying new things. Obviously, the core things that cannot be negotiated are security and compliance against federal regulations, making sure data is secured and protected, privacy is maintained. But within that playing ground, everything should be on the table. And we've seen agencies that are taking bold action. The USDA is a great example of that, where they very quickly realized that certain technologies, certain processes were just not scaling and working, and therefore new approaches are required. And literally within a matter of days, they were able to deploy new capabilities that frankly previously had been considered but not really explored, but now was the right time to kind of revisit those decisions. Similarly at SBA, as the unemployment insurance claim volume went up, they very quickly realized that legacy systems that they relied on for many years were just not able to scale. And within a matter of a couple of weeks, they were able to implement new capabilities that allowed people to continue to file those unemployment claims and get the benefits that they needed. These are great examples of going out on a limb. This doesn't mean that you're breaking policy. It just means that you're revisiting decisions, perhaps that were not the best decisions 3 years ago, that didn't create the most ROI, but now the situation around that decision has changed, and maybe it's time to revisit those investments or those platforms that you considered and did not pursue, or even reprioritizing investments that may not have been the best investments in the past, but now are critical. I used to joke about this, like the hardest dollars to compete for, and like as a CIO, when you're building your budget and you're discussing your priorities for your leadership, it's almost impossible to get dollars for non-mission systems, right? So you can't, it's very hard to go and say, we're gonna improve, deploy tools that encourage and improve collaboration between teams, and we're going to spend money doing that, because that's never a mission, that's never considered to be a mission critical need, and therefore, it's very hard to kind of compete for those dollars. But now all of a sudden, those kinds of tools, those kinds of technologies have become almost mission critical, almost the first investment you need to make, because without it, your employees cannot actually do their jobs. So rethink your models, rethink your how you stack rank investments, for example. Rethink the criteria you use to look at investments and look at the tools that you use. Just because IT has previously said, this is our IT strategy and we're going to go down this road, may not be relevant anymore. And it's time to kind of be very open about those decisions and rethink them.
Sunny, we're just about out of time. Before I let you go, I just want to hit upon one other topic, and that's data. Really, data is key to so much of what agencies do and to be successful. Walk me through a little bit of what you're seeing from agencies, how they're starting to use data to make better decisions.
Absolutely. I think this is an area that has seen incredible priority recently, both from the legislative side, as well as the formation of the Chief Data Officers Council. We're seeing very, very encouraging results here. When you're, especially in an environment where you're working remotely, when your teams are distributed, data has to be the way you navigate uncertainty and make sound decisions. Unfortunately, historically, many systems and technologies have not been designed with a priority on bringing that data together as an agency asset and making it alive and connecting it to decision-making processes. It is more important than ever before to do that. And some of the work that we're seeing with the CDO Council, how they're prioritizing elevating agency data into a agency-wide assets, and in fact even sharing that across agencies for performance management, evaluating what's working, what's not working, is going to be critically important. It's no longer sufficient for you to go and walk the halls and talk to people to get a feel for how your agency is performing. Now you need hard data to make those decisions. And so prioritizing those investments and enabling those teams is going to be a key priority for agency leadership moving forward.
Sunny, we could talk so much more. There's so many more topics to hit upon, but unfortunately we are out of time for today. So let me thank my guest, Sunny Hashmi, the Managing Director of Global Government at Box. Sunny, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you so much, Jason. It was a pleasure. Great.
I'm Jason Miller, and you've been listening to Federal Insights, the Future of Work, sponsored by Box on Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Box.